Welcome, everybody, to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show.
It's my goal to feed 1 billion people before I die.
We want to bring awareness around the issue of hunger and food insecurity.
7 to 8 million people served so far. With the sole goal of eradicating world hunger by connecting sources of food to recipients in need. Fiorenza's Food for Friends.
Hi, Derek Fiorenza here for the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. And today I have a very special guest with us. His name is Ran Hathcock, and he is a partner, Chartwell Law. He is out of the Atlanta office. We have a lot to cover today. Ryan, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks, Derek. Excited to be here.
So, Ryan, before we dive into the philanthropic initiative we're working on with Chartwell Cares and F4, the seasonal food drive, I'd love to learn a little bit about how you came to be a lawyer as a kid growing up. What inspired you to want to pursue law? I've always personally found law very fascinating, but what was your inspiration?
Yeah, I would say I don't know that I had a ton of inspiration. My parents were both veterinarians, so naturally, I was inclined to go that route. Definitely more into the math and sciences, and I was actually a finance major in college. But when I graduated, it was the financial downturn in 2009, and so nobody was getting jobs in the financial field. So naturally, I did what a lot of other people did and went back to school, and I went to law school. So it kind of just backed into it, but I've been rocking and rolling ever since.
And what kind of law do you practice, Ryan?
I do construction work as well as workers' comp. So we're on the defense side, but that's primarily where I practice.
So, for someone that's listening right now, I'll pull up your LinkedIn profile. What does that mean you're on the workers' comp side? Just someone that doesn't know anything about law.
Well, so we're an insurance defense firm. So in the realm of construction litigation and workers' comp, if someone's injured at work, they file a workers' comp claim, and of course that is sent to an insurance company who then determines the validity of it, as well as the kind of the ins and outs and the procedures for that, as well as construction litigation. It can be a whole range of things, whether it's contract claims or construction defect, or even worksite injuries. And so there's a lot that falls under the realm of construction, but on the defense side of things for both construction and workers' comp.
So I've always had a question. I'm just going to pull up the Chartwell Law LinkedIn page for those that are following on YouTube. I've always had a question though. When you go to law school, and I went to school, undergrad, communications, I went on, I got my MBA. We actually graduated around a similar time. I finished my master's degree in undergrad was '08. Master's degree was 2009, 2010. So I finished my MBA. I was going to a state school in Pittsburgh at the time, and I came back and started working with my dad's investment firm. But I had looked at law school, and I was really curious. How does an attorney, I guess, pick out what aspect of law they want to practice in? Because there's just so many parts of the law.
Yeah, I mean, unless your father or your mother is in a particular area of law, I feel that 99% of the attorneys you talk to, they don't have a clue coming out of law school. You kind of just start somewhere and either you like it or you kind of transition to something. But I mean, truthfully, very few people know exactly what they want to do. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? You
Yep.
start off with an astronaut, right? And you end up somewhere else.
I love that. I think it's so cool. So, and then Chartwell Law, they're beyond just Atlanta, right? I have their website up now. Your practice, your firm is beyond just Atlanta?
Oh yeah, we're throughout certainly throughout the East Coast and Central United States. We're starting to go more west. We're in the Northwest more recently, but we're in at least 33 states. If you look at the top right, our locations there, you can look at the state map.
Wow.
Go back up to the top real quick, and
Yes.
then go to state admissions,
Okay.
and that'll show you a map of where we are. So we're all over the place, but primarily on the East Coast and Central United States.
Ryan, what's the difference between an admitted state and an office location?
Well, an office location is where we physically have a people located. But myself, I'm obviously located in Georgia, but I'm licensed in Kentucky and West Virginia as well. And so
Okay.
you'll see in Kentucky, we don't actually have a physical location, but we've got a number of attorneys that are licensed in Kentucky as well as other states. So you might not see a physical location, but we're able to represent clients in those states. And so it's definitely a benefit to our folks and our clients to be able to service them wherever they might be. And so that's really the draw to Chartwell's national reach.
That's incredible. So then I'm looking at this here. So that's most of the country. You guys have a presence or you have the ability to practice in most of the country, it looks like.
Yeah, and I said 33 states. I might be off. We're growing pretty rapidly, so we could be 34, 35. You could probably count the non-covered states more quickly than the covered states.
Cool. Well, for those that are listening and watching, you can follow the Chartwell Law LinkedIn page, and we'll make sure we'll include a to the in the post. We'll make sure we include a link so that people can follow the LinkedIn page.
That'd be great.
Tell us a
Thanks.
little bit about Atlanta. What's it like down there? I've visited a few times. Every time I've been down there, it's super hot. But tell us a little bit about Atlanta.
Yeah, well, if you're not in Atlanta, people call it Hotlanta, but nobody in Atlanta calls it Hotlanta, right? But no, it's just it's a massive city. It's growing. I feel in
Yeah.
the years I've been here, it's just every time you drive into the city or drive to a new part of the city, there's cranes going up, just like a lot of the places in the southeast. But no, it's a very large city. We've got the movie production going on. We've got the major sports. I mean, everything that you could want to in from a large city, of course. But there's a ton of business there, and it's really well situated for our office, which is growing in and of itself because of all the business there and the need to service our clients in Georgia. So there's a lot going on. I mean, I could go on for hours about Atlanta and what it's got to offer.
And is it home to you? Is this where you grew up in Atlanta?
No, I grew up in Alabama, in Auburn, Alabama. I'm sure
Yeah.
people have heard of the university, but that's where my parents are. So it's 2 hours from the city.
That's not bad. So then,
No.
I guess the holidays you go back home to see your folks.
Yeah, yeah. We're actually in a couple of days. I'm going to the Auburn, Alabama football game and
Oh boy.
have Thanksgiving with my family. But yeah, not looking forward to that game. But it's a good time to go with my dad.
That's really great. That's really neat. So if I come to Atlanta or when it comes to Atlanta, do you have a certain food you recommend? Like, when you're visiting different cities, they say, oh, you gotta try this, you gotta try that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're known for anything. It's such a melting pot that you can get whatever you want. I remember we went out to eat with a client recently, and we were talking about this particular road called Buford Highway that's got every possible genre of food that you could look for. I mean, you've got the high-end steakhouses, of course. You've got the high-end Italian. There's some good seafood. But I really love that Buford Highway because you can get, any type of Mexican food versus Asian food, and you just drive up the road and you get something new, and you could literally stop somewhere different every time, and there's just such good quality food out there.
And from now, give us a bonus from where you're from in Alabama, Auburn. Is there any really good food over there?
In the South barbecue, I feel like that's the thing to do when you're in the South and you're traveling different
So
places
good.
is either find a good back home like breakfast place where you get the eggs and the grits and the
Yeah.
sausage with gravy and all that kind of stuff is barbecue.
Every time I think of grits, I think of my cousin Vinny, and he says the guy takes the butter or whatever he's using at the time. But remember the movie, and it's don't you aware of the ongoing cholesterol problem in our country?
Yeah, but I mean grits with butter and cheese, man, you can't go
Oh,
wrong.
sounds delicious. It absolutely
Yeah.
sounds delicious. All right, so for a barbecue, spicy or sweet?
Sweet. I like hot though.
You do
Yeah, I
like it
mean I
hot.
like
Okay,
hot and sweet, yeah, for sure.
I like a sweet sauce too. All right, so before we dive into the work we're doing together with F4 and Chartwell Law, Chartwell Cares, is there anything else you want to share about the practice, different things that you're seeing as opportunities that you would like to share? And no worries if not, but
Yeah, no, I mean, just generally, I mean, just a little bit about Chartwell is, it started up in Pennsylvania and it's grown just very rapidly over the last 25 years. Well, actually 20 years, excuse me. But um, it's a full service kind of deal. So we represent all types of insurance defense, claims. So there's no pigeonhole to just construction and workers' comp. We got folks in employment. We've got folks in premises. There's all kinds of it's a one-stop shop, like I said earlier. So yeah, it's just a little bit about us, but we're continuing to grow and hopefully continue to work alongside F4 and give back as much as we can.
and when did you become partner? Was it recent?
Well, I started with the firm almost 3 years ago, and so I came over as a partner then.
That's awesome. That must have been such a
Yeah.
great accomplishment. That's like the
Yep.
ultimate, right? As an attorney to be a partner.
Yeah, I'm just being able to handle the workload and do it with grace and find opportunities to give back for sure.
And where did you go to law school?
Mercer, it's in Macon, Georgia. It's about an hour and a half south of Atlanta.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. All right,
even
so
hotter down there.
Oh, great. We love
Yeah.
that. Well, some people actually do. It's so funny because when I'm with some of my folks, they really like it hot and they know me, I'm always liking it like on the cooler side. So even in our office, we have this internal, like once the fall, winter starts, oh my gosh, we keep going back to the thermostat. I was telling you before we went live, I have to keep plugging my fan in because the lady's like,
Yeah.
turn the heat up, like, oh, here we
Yeah.
go. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
so funny.
we just got a little bit of snow. I think everywhere in the Midwest and East Coast got a really cold snap, and so you don't see
Yes.
snow down here much in Georgia. We got a couple flurries yesterday, and so not a big fan of it. I prefer the heat.
There you go.
Yep,
Spoken like a true Georgian, right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay, so Ryan, what I want to talk about next is you and your passion for helping others. And then we'll transition into the food drive with Chartwell and the mission that we're working with down there in Georgia. But why is helping other people important to you, whether it's professionally or philanthropically? Where does that come from and why is it important?
Yeah, I really just, it's not something that I consciously think about. I really think when I was younger, through my church and through my parents, we found opportunities to give back. I actually worked in like a soup kitchen once or twice. Did a lot of giving back through box lunches and things like that. And even more recently, I talked about my parents a little bit. They're now retired and they are very ingrained into the local food bank. My mom's there every Friday, inventorying what they've currently got, what they need to go get, and then goes to different grocery stores and collects additional items that they can provide to people each week. And so, my parents have been a great kind of example of that. But I think it's just a way to kind of get out of the routine of work and doing the same thing all over and over again. It just makes me feel like my time's being useful elsewhere. So I find opportunities to do that. And, obviously you guys have presented us with this opportunity. And so I've kind of just jumped in. Like, I think we talked about it briefly online, but it's kind of hard to find those opportunities if you're not looking for them.
Yep.
So when someone gives it to you, it just, you jump in and then, I know you shouldn't have that intrinsic good feeling about yourself, but it is nice to know that you're helping someone out. And so there's always a value in doing that. And again, just having the opportunity that you guys have provided for us makes it a lot easier. So I just look for those opportunities when they arise.
So Ryan, I appreciate your thoughtfulness. I think it's really inspiring. What would you tell people that are thinking about helping, but they just don't know how to take that first step? Would you encourage them? Would you tell them that it's worthwhile doing it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that it's worthwhile doing it. I think people uh, say they don't have the time,
Yes,
right?
all the
There's you
time. I
always
hear that. Yes.
there's always a reason not to have the time, but I think there's certain ways to cut out things that really aren't valuable to your day,
Yeah.
and not particularly pointing at anybody or any particular
Sure.
type of activity, but um, it's easy to make an excuse, right? And so when you find that opportunity to push it aside and just say yes as opposed to saying no, and then you uh, actually follow through with what you've chosen to do, it's so rewarding because you're like, man, that was awesome. I'm so glad that I did that. And that's all you hear from people when they do that.
Yeah.
When they come in and say, man, I'm so glad they do that. When you look at the results of the efforts that you or your office or your group of people made in terms of collecting food or collecting money, and you know where it's going, you're like, man, that was awesome. We should do that again. And there's always that feeling. It's almost like a runner's high, right? When you go run and you get done, you're like, man, that felt great. I need to do that again. And so it's just that opportunity. I think if you just say yes, right? Say yes once and put yourself out there. No one's asking you to be, the Bill Gates of
Right.
giving back, but find an opportunity just to do what you can and when you can. And I think it's rewarding.
There was a book you might be familiar with because you mentioned church. So Pastor Rick Warren wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. Have you ever heard of it?
Okay, have not.
So it's a good one, and you don't even have to be religious to like the book, but he talks about in the book just living a life of quality and value to yourself and to others. And a lot of it stems from we find purpose and service to others.
Sure.
And maybe you've personally experienced it that your life takes on a greater meaning when you can see the suffering of others and then thoughtfully respond. As you said, it doesn't have to be a big thing, it could be a
Yeah.
small thing. You get great sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, that purpose, fulfilling that purpose of helping people. Because let's face it, if you and I and other people didn't step up, then people's suffering would be even greater.
Yeah. And I think for me is sometimes you think, oh, what this half a box of food, this is not a contribution. No one's going to be appreciative of that. And then you hand it off to somebody and just the smile on their face and the appreciation, you're like, wow, I had no idea that that was going to be important to them. And it's like, man, what else could I have done to make this even better? And I think that's what you start to realize is when you say yes and you do those things, the appreciation you get back from other people, like, man, that was nothing to me. I can't believe this means that much to you. And you're like, wow, I can make a difference, even if it's just to this group of people or this one person. And I think that's really where it starts to snowball.
I look at one of the examples from one of the saints. I'm Catholic. Mother Teresa said, and this was so beautiful because she did her ministry in India, so Calcutta specifically, and she would help out in the streets, and she would talk about the suffering, and we think of like there's a problem, let's solve it, right? You're an attorney, there's a claim or a suit, and you're saying my job is to solve this, help the insurance company, whatever it might be. I'm doing retirement plans. She specifically said that to love someone is not to necessarily fix their problem, but to suffer with them, to stand in solidarity. So we sometimes minimize our contribution. It's a half a box of food, or it's one meal, or it's
Yeah,
$5, or it's $10. But it's not always about solving the greater problem because that might not be attainable. It's about making sure that we do all we can to stand with those that are suffering so that they have a voice, they have representation, they have love, they don't feel as alone in that
right.
suffering.
That's right. I think the alone part is the big one
Yeah.
for me.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the table so we can talk at a high level what the partnership with Chartwell looks like, and then I'm going to share a little bit about the shelter that you're working with. You can kind of speak to it and why you're excited about it.
Yeah,
So we at F4 have worked with Chartwell. This is our second year now. We've coordinated this holiday food drive. So starting in the month of November and it runs through Thanksgiving and ends in the beginning of December. And I would say there's multiple points to the goal. So number one, we want to collect food to benefit, food pantries that are serving individuals that are hungry at a high level. So, problem solution. But I think beyond that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to cultivate relationships
yeah,
and build awareness. So throughout the firm, across the 33 states or more, however many locations you're at now, as you keep growing, we're trying to create awareness of food insecurity, the issue. And I think we're hearing more about it, especially lately with the government shutdown. There's been more awareness around people are going hungry and how much reliance there really is on support from the government, but also from the food banks. So we're creating a medium for people to collect food or collect money. And the nice thing is the money that we're collecting, the food we're collecting, is all going to benefit a local pantry to the office that each attorney or colleague is affiliated with. So in your example, you're in Atlanta. So you're going to be working with a shelter that's located in Atlanta. One of
right.
your colleagues might be in Miami or they might be in Philadelphia. They're going to be working with a shelter or a pantry that's in those respective cities. So we're creating a unified front in the sense that we're globally working as a team to collect food and spread awareness, but we're then bringing it down, we're distilling it to a local level, and we're making sure the impact is being felt locally through the partnerships of those offices and those pantries. Our vision, Ryan, and our hope and goal is that it extends, and this is the vision I think of Chartwell Cares, is trying to make a difference and effectuate change in a positive way in the community. We would love to be able to say that you're now working with XYZ Shelter for this food drive in November, but there's opportunities throughout the year where maybe you could cook a meal, or maybe you could help
Right.
sort food that comes in from a food drive, or maybe you could help pick some vegetables during the summertime, or maybe you could transport food for this shelter during the weekend, or maybe you can pick a volunteer, certain amount of hours that you want to volunteer on site and help with whatever the need might be. But we're trying to cultivate relationships between the partners or the various offices and the partners, so those shelters and pantries, so that that extends beyond just the food drive, but could lead towards more of an ongoing effort to serve that community. So that is at a high level,
Yeah.
just setting the table. If you want to add anything to that, feel free.
Yeah, no, that's our goal as well. It's easy to think about the giving back during Thanksgiving. It's kind of when everybody does a food drive, right?
Yes.
But it certainly doesn't end the need. And we talked a little bit about that, about, the opportunity presents itself and saying yes when that opportunity arises. But you don't always, necessarily get it blasted to you through an advertisement or you reaching out to us. There's other opportunities to do that. And so, hopefully we partnering with my sister's house, well, I know you'll talk about that, is something that we can continue to grow. and do throughout the year. And so our hope is that they're receptive to us, and find opportunities for us to be involved with them throughout the year. We know it's a worthwhile place. I was there last year, and we'll talk about that. But um, we're looking for those opportunities, and I think it's a great way to build relationships with the community. But I think there's a lot of team building for us that's valuable for us when we're doing those things together and we're giving back together. I think there's a lot of benefit to that, and it only just furthers the cause in greater ways.
Yeah, and Ryan, that's a really good setup. So let me just read this for those that are listening, because we have people listening on Spotify and iTunes. So my sister's house is an overnight shelter for women and children experiencing homelessness. So when we hear the term homelessness, that can mean a variety of things. Homelessness does not necessarily mean that you're living on the street under a bridge or on a city street. It could be you're living out of your car, or you don't have permanent housing, that you're in transient housing. That could also be a form of homelessness. So that term homelessness is something we always have to use as a caveat. It doesn't always mean what we might think of in our brain. It's kind of a reorientation, a reimagining. The same with food insecurity. When someone says they're food insecure, it just means they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So it doesn't mean that they don't have access to any food. It means that they just are not sure if they're going to eat this day or tomorrow or the day after. And they could be getting food from a food pantry, right? And they're reliant on that food, or else they wouldn't eat. They're food insecure. So that would be an example of it. So it's the definition actually is more encompassing than what we think of, which is very narrow. So let me read some more. The shelter. We provide a safe and healthy environment in which women and children can recover and grow from past experiences that may have contributed towards their present circumstances and work towards healthy relationships with God, themselves, and others, as well as sustainable income and housing. One of the biggest things, Ryan, that we see when we're trying to serve communities and individuals in communities that are affected is a lot of times it's generational. A lot of times there's mental health. A lot of times that's physical health. Someone has an ailment and they can no longer work and they're disabled. So it stems from all different sources. And what's nice about these shelters, it stems from all different reasons. What's nice about these shelters is there's typically some type of a rehabilitation component. So it's not just feeding, like whereas a food bank or food pantry would provide food, you'd come to pick it up, the first of the month or two times a month or weekly, depending upon who's distributing it. A shelter is going to be more so providing place to stay, so they're giving security for a specific time, and there's going to be some type of maybe job training or some type of skill training that they might not have to help them get back up onto their feet. So it's more of a transitional opportunity for people to move from being homeless and food insecure to being able to become self-sufficient again if they once were, or for the first time self-sufficient. Our team works together with each woman and child to help them address the spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, and vocational needs in a way that is sensitive to the unique needs of each woman and child. And what's nice about this shelter you're working with specifically, it is targeting women and children. So you'll also see a lot of times when you're providing services to various communities that are struggling with food insecurity, there'll be shelters that are labeled men's shelters, and then there'll be shelters that are, labeled for all families, and then there'll be women and children's shelters. And typically, it's great because this is a community that's really hard. It's hit very hard. Here are some of their services: overnight shelter, which we covered, meals. When you hear the term meals, again, this is depending upon the shelter. They'll have a morning breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or they'll have a breakfast and dinner. Sometimes what shelters will do also is they'll have what's called a communal feast or a communal meal. So anybody from the community that's struggling for, let's say, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, depending upon the resources of that shelter, could come to that shelter for that communal feeding. So you don't have to be a resident all the time, depending upon the shelter, to receive food if they're providing a meal. And typically, in our world of food distribution, we think of food in two camps: perishable and non-perishable. So any warm meal would be on the perishable side. Any non-perishable would be like your canned good items that we're collecting for this food drive.
Right.
Life skills classes, counseling. So I talked about mental health. I talked about job training, social service referrals, medical care. As I mentioned, one of the largest, I think, causes of bankruptcy in our country is due to medical debt, childcare, and then vocational training. So they're providing a lot of services, and online, the resources, there's plenty of stories. I'd be interested to hear, Ryan, what your experience was last year working with this organization. How did it impact you and your team?
Yeah, well, you recall last year we kicked off and we wish we had more time
Yep.
to maybe accumulate what we would like to have accumulated for the year. I still think we did well with the time that we had. And, our experience was we focused more on not the physical money donation, and I think there's value to that, of course, but we knew there was a need for food, and so our focus was really on getting the non-perishable items as much as we could.
Yep.
And it was a lot easier ask. It's a lot easier for me to ask, hey, bring in some food from your house as opposed to break out your phone and figure out the QR code and plug your card in and all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot of it sounds like it's not a big ask, but it is a big ask when you can just say, "Hey, bring in something on your way in." And so I was really focused on that, and so we accumulated that food. I put it in boxes in our office and made it easy for people to drop it off, and then I physically took it down there and I met with a couple of the folks there. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, they were just so appreciative, so welcoming to the idea of partnering with us, that it was a no-brainer this year to kind of jump back into it when the opportunity presented itself. And so I'm just looking forward to having another shot to go down there and hopefully speak with some more people and just let them know that we're here and find other opportunities to engage with them.
It's so special, Ryan, don't you think, when you're getting involved and you were delivering the food, so you did have a chance to meet
Yeah.
the people that were working there. But isn't it really special to have that opportunity? Like people that don't do it don't get a chance to experience it, but it's
Yeah.
very humbling, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean that's what I touched on before. If you
Yeah.
just say yes,
Say
it's
yes.
very easy to say no or say you're too busy. I mean everybody's busy, but it's kind of again why it's a no-brainer for me this year is the opportunity just to see a couple of smiles and just hand off those boxes to people that are so appreciative. And again, it felt like nothing to us, and I wish it was more, and I felt like we could have done more, and I hope we do more this year. But again, it was a lot. It was a lot to them, and it fed a lot of people for a long period of time. And yeah, I mean, it was humbling, and I'm just excited to have that opportunity to try to do that again.
Yeah, and just know that, Ryan, what you're doing down there with your team and what all of the Chartwell offices are doing around the country, is really, it is making a difference. And as I say, think of the work we're doing, the service work, and whatever service work someone does. But think of this, you're solving for the need during the food drive. And I think the real opportunity is going to be next is if we can, like guitar, plug it in and amplify it so that we
Yeah.
support ongoing throughout the year, understanding the needs. That's why when you talk to these shelters and you talk to the individuals that are working there, getting a better feel for, hey, how can I help out throughout the year? I think that is really where the low-hanging fruit is.
Yeah, well, I think the difference again, the QR code,
Yep.
it's a faceless donation. And sure, they need the money, but when you go down there and you talk to people, you get a sense of what they need, right?
Yes.
And you can talk to them about it. And so I found that to be more valuable than just the QR code. And again, any donation is worthwhile, and money is great, of course. But I also felt that it was more valuable for me to go and put a name with the face with the food and with the donation. And so, again, looking forward to doing that and hopefully growing our relationships. They know who we are, right? And they know that we're going to be, participating with them for a long time.
Yeah, and I think maybe a good segment to finish on would be the vision of their organization. We're a community united to end homelessness, poverty, and addiction, one person at a time. It's beautiful because you think of a vision as being very aspirational. Maybe you won't be able to necessarily achieve it. Your mission is working towards that vision. But a community united to end homelessness, poverty, and addiction, one person at a time. So very apropos. Well, before
Yep.
we close and sign off, Ryan, is there anything else that you'd like to share for any of your other team members around the country? Because obviously we will be sharing this internally and externally, but anything else you'd like to share with the team?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to challenge the rest of the offices to see if they can beat us. I know last year, I think it was our New York office kind of put us to shame. I thought we did a great job, and then I saw their donation and was a little ticked off. So I'm hoping that we can take the crown this year. And so I want to challenge the rest of our offices, the rest of my colleagues to say yes, right? I think that's the theme that I've kind of gathered today is say yes when the opportunity presents itself, and F4 has given us that opportunity. So the challenge has been offered. We'll see who accepts, and I hope just for a great turnout and great donation across all of our offices.
I love that. Ryan, beautifully said. I won't add to it because I can't. I want to thank Chartwell Cares and the Chartwell leadership team for believing in serving the community And for all of the pantries that are going to be recipients of the office's actions, here we come. We're coming to help. We're here to serve, support, and love. Thank you for the opportunity to be of service to you. And for all those that are listening, please make sure you subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, to the F4 Hunger Awareness Show. This is part of a special series with the Chartwell Cares community. And our guest today was Ran Hathcock out of the Chartwell office in Atlanta. Ryan, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Derek, and thanks to the F4 community.